Okay.
And we're live.
Good morning, everybody.
Happy Friday.
Friday. What's June 26th?
Wow.
That means next, it's like July 4th is coming up.
Coming up
4th of
next
July.
weekend.
Wow. Crazy, this year is just flowing by. And man, it's so crazy out there right now.
I know.
mean, everything's affecting our business, whether it be COVID and the uptick in COVID.
We're 6 feet apart now.
6 feet apart. We're, you know, a lot of people aren't taking this COVID thing serious, and I can tell you that my son was in town for 70 days, and him and his buddies were down in Old Town. I mean, he's 27 years old. He's down there partying, and he told me, he goes, it was like the Super Bowl down there. There's people all over the place, and yeah. So I think a lot of it is maybe we need to be a little smarter. I'm not a conspiracy theorist and telling you that it's not real. It's real. I think some of the numbers are skewed. It's so hard to know what to believe.
It's so hard to know what the truth is. Yeah.
It's so hard to figure out what the truth is anymore. So
yeah. So I mean, but I think you should just keep practicing, taking precautions. You know.
No doubt.
Try to social distance. Wear a mask when you need to. You know.
Yeah, we need you all. We need everybody out there. I don't think this stops our business. We're going to discuss a little bit of that today on being safe with COVID and how to get by that. I know there's been a ton of material on social media about how to handle this and virtual open houses and all that. We're going to get into the Johnny Walker and Mike Marlowe version of no bullshit. This is what's really going on. This is how we take, kind of our steps at it. But today is all about you guys. So if you have any questions about any subject, we have kind of an itinerary we're gonna kind of flow through. But if anybody has any questions, Kelly's feeding it onto the website, on the Facebook, the my home group live Facebook Live.
That's just my home group Facebook.
Yeah, whatever it is. I see my buddy Taylor Castro's on. Hi Taylor, I hope you're feeling better, honey. She is so awesome.
Lawyer Title's awesome. If anybody on here hasn't had a chance to meet with them, you need to. They do some amazing things for agents.
And then it doubles up because Taylor came in. I'm doing these Facebook ads, and there's mega jiggles and jiggle giggles, and I don't get any of that stuff. And Taylor came in. She types so fast I can't even keep, and got this stuff set up for me. So Taylor, thanks, honey. I hope you're feeling better. Kim Hickey at Lawyer's Title. Anthony Penna, not so much.
Yeah.
But
he's an Eagles fan.
Yeah, we're stuck with him, so I guess he's pretty good.
Yeah, he's an alright guy.
Yeah. So Mike, here's what I want to talk about today. So I've mentioned this before, that I get this thing that's thrown on my driveway every day. It's called a newspaper. Has anybody ever seen one of these? Yeah, there's actually a way you can get news that's printed on this paper, newspaper, and they throw it in the driveway. And sometimes there's some good stuff in here. Sometimes, more often than not, there's stuff in here that I don't agree with. But that's okay because it's got good statistics on sports. And every once in a while, in the real estate section, they come up with some really good stuff. And it just so happens that on their New Home Central on a Friday in May, they came up with this, and I felt like this was really something that we could jump into. So the big question is how to choose an agent. That's a huge question. So let's start from the top. So you got your real estate license. I don't care if you've had it for 10 years, for 10 months, for 10 minutes. They don't teach you how to get business at real estate school. There's no class that tells you, okay, this is a good way to get business, this is a good way to get business. We pride ourselves here at My Home Group on creating and putting together formats to teach agents here. Mike's a big part of that with UX, and we can get into that, and the orientation, and if somebody's a My Home Group agent and they don't know how to do something and they're not over here asking, shame on you, because there's There's so much education to be had here. And I'm a member of the senior row upstairs, which has got like 120 years of experience in real estate.
Huge wealth of knowledge. Yeah.
So just a wealth of knowledge, and you know, knowledge is something that you get when you get your ass kicked. You know, how you get up from getting your ass kicked. You know, okay,
learning from mistakes.
now I know not to do that again. And,
Yeah, right.
so I can tell you there's been probably 150 ass kickings that we've gotten down this hall. But this question is awesome. So how do you choose an agent? And it's written by David Brown. I don't know who he is, but he's got some interesting things in here. So I'm going to go through these one by one, and we'll both kind of ask it. So how to find an agent is first, before you choose, how do you find an agent? So there's multiple ways to do that. I would imagine if I wasn't in the business, or let's say I needed my house painted, I would go someplace where there was talk about painters and start there and figure out, you know, what kind of painter do I need? Well, they do outside, they do inside, they do touch-ups, they do. So you got to find that first. So I would tell you with the internet nowadays, you can find anything on the internet. So
which is where most people find agents. So
Probably.
it's like over 90% find an agent online.
probably important to have a presence,
Okay.
some kind of presence. Now, keep in mind, your presence on the internet never goes away. So in other words, if you're on Facebook right now and you're making comments about something political, you might be screwing yourself. You got to be really, really careful about what you're posting on Facebook right now. Twitter, Instagram. All week I heard about these people that are all in trouble, losing their jobs, some warranted, some not warranted. There's a councilman in Scottsdale that said something the other day that he's just getting raked over the coals. I mean, they're like getting ready to push him right out of city council.
Wow.
He's running for re-election. There's no way in hell he's going to get re-elected now. And just because he said something dumb he thought was funny, and nobody thought it was funny. So he might have thought it was funny, but it wasn't. So your presence on social media is important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as a new agent, you're going to want to have some sort of social media presence, at least with a Facebook business page, and then on your personal page as well. So, of course, we have classes for all this too. So, as a new agent, that's going to be an important aspect.
Not even just as a new agent.
Yeah,
as an
or
experienced
experienced agent. Yeah, if you don't, you need to, because like we just said, it's over 90% find their agent online, and then I believe the statistics over 85% work with the first person they talk to. It's a pretty high statistic that they find them, and then there's a high percentage that actually work with the first person that they actually connect with, that they talk with. So you should have a social media presence if you don't.
So I'll give you the number one best tip you're going to get on this subject, without question. Be knowledgeable. Be knowledgeable. Have the contract. I have a little John Dyer on my shoulder every day when I'm
We
doing
all should
business.
have a little John
We should
Dyer.
all have a little John Dyer on our shoulder, because he preaches perfect paperwork. He's got this big, long PPPP, perfect paperwork, produces whatever it is. Like, I don't listen to him half the time, but most of the time he's got pretty good stuff to say. So when I write contracts, they're perfect. I go through them 5-6 times to make sure they're absolutely perfect. Know the contract, know the Binzer, know the buyer broker, know all the different documents that we use in our transactions. I do a lot of relocation business, and a lot of my clients come from Chicago. There's no attorney involved in the transaction here. In Chicago, there's an attorney on both sides. That's a big difference. So people get down and they're like, well, wait, who's protecting me? Me. I'm protecting you. So when they make that decision on how to choose an agent, you better make sure that you can explain to them why you're good at what you do and why they should choose you to do their transaction, because it's a big
Yeah, you really do need to understand the contract.
Yeah, and all the documents, really.
Absolutely.
Okay, so knowledge, I would say knowledge is power. That's the number one thing that you want to be prepared for. The other thing you want to be prepared for is questions that they're going to ask. So, and there's questions you're going to want to ask too. But for them, let's talk a little bit about how, first of all, they're going to look on Zillow, they're going to look on Yelp, they're going to look on Facebook, they're looking online. So they need to be able to find you online. So now they find you online, and here's some of the Suggested asking questions such as, for my timeline and desired financial outcome, what are my options? Be prepared for that. This is all goes into the preparation in a listing presentation. Or even if they're hiring you for a buyer. There's a lot.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, a buyer presentation, I know a lot of agents don't have one. I mean, they'll create a listing presentation for the listing, but a lot of times they don't have one for the buyer side. And you absolutely should, because a lot of the questions he's going to be going through right now can be done and answered through the buyer presentation. We're smiling because we have a guest that just walked in. So.
Like the man just walked in to with this guy's mask on.
He's got the
mask
got
on. Bottle of tequila. Everything I touch turns to salt. Get in.
Oh, say
hi to everybody.
Say hi to everybody.
Hi everybody. It's Neil Brooks.
What's going on?
Dude, you want to join us?
Huh?
You want to join us?
What are we talking about?
Just how to help yourself get hired as an agent.
Oh.
Pull up a chair. Join us.
Sure, why not?
Why not do the 6 feet thing? So
Dude,
yeah, that's okay. I got my.
This is a total add-on.
You got your mask on.
Yeah, I'm good.
Grab that door first, bro.
Oh, okay.
So I was saying the buyer presentation is something that's very important, because if you can create a presentation that'll answer a lot of these questions, sometimes they won't ask as many questions because you're answering them through the buyer presentation. So
you want to put that
definitely.
I'm good here. I'll speak in.
So definitely you should consider, if you're as an agent, if you don't have a buyer presentation, getting one, because the buyer presentation can be the whole explanation of how things are going to go from meeting you to close of escrow. So you should definitely have one.
Yeah, and let me throw this out too, that we both work with lawyers. I'm not sure what title company you work with, but most title companies will have buyer guides and seller guides. Those are really good things to have if you're interviewing for a job, because you can kind of use it as a cheat sheet and go through it and say, this is what I'm going to do, and it's almost like you can't even forget to say something because it's kind of all right there in the buyer's guide.
Yep. Plus it makes you look professional.
Oh my God, well, we wouldn't want that. Okay, so if I listed my home, how would you market my home? Okay, so where is 80% of properties sold really? Off the MLS. So obviously, the number one thing is, well, we're going to take some great pictures. We're not going to do the pictures with this. We're going to hire a professional photographer. We're going to take great pictures. I have a little rule of thumb that if it's a listing above $500,000, then I'll go with a nicer package of pictures. Maybe I'll do a twilight, do some drone stuff. If it's a lower priced listing, you might want to decide not to do as luxurious of pictures. That's certainly an option. How do you feel about that?
No, I agree. You can do different levels, kind of like a build your own Sunday, which would actually allow you to also maybe adjust your listing commission if you want to, because you could kind of give the person a menu, like almost. I almost like I explain it to people. It's like a build your own Sunday. Okay, you want bananas? Boom, we'll put bananas. If you want nuts, we'll put nuts on. If you want chocolate, we'll do this. So that if you have maybe an entry-level home that you're selling, you might say, hey, you know what? I'm going to give you a certain commission, and I'll do this. This is kind of like my package number one. And then if you go up to more expensive, you can add to that. And people understand that. Plus, you give them a deal. Everybody wants a deal. So you got to go in high, and then you give them the deal they want. Like
be careful with that, though.
Yeah, you have to be careful. You got to be careful.
You know what?
Maybe you could touch on. We've had Neil in UX. Everyone, he is amazing with the listing presentation. Maybe go into that a little bit too, because that's kind of part of your presentation, right? When
Correct.
you cover everything that you do for them as the listing agent.
Right.
Maybe you can talk about that a little bit.
Well, that's one of the things you want to do before you start even talking what your listing commission is. That's the last thing you're going to bring up. You're going to talk about all the different things you're going to do to get their house sold. And you want to keep it nice and streamlined and easy to understand. In fact, everybody has their own style of doing things. And before I had when I first got into the business, I put together a real flashy kind of, online thing, which was great. And I would go through my laptop with them, and I would show them the different things that I was doing. I broke it down into 3 major categories of what I'm doing to get your house sold. But then over time, I've kind of modified that to where it's more, because what I was finding is they were looking at the computer screen, and we weren't making that connection people-wise. And that's the thing, because 99% of them are going to hire you because they like you and they trust you. And so,
Let me jump in here real quick. Here's
Yeah.
here's another thing when you get to this point. Don't do a listing presentation to half. Don't do just the husband or just the wife.
Yeah.
Don't even show up unless they're both going to be there.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Never, never, never.
Yeah, because they'll always be able to use the other person as the bad guy. So yeah, you gotta get them both in there, but I guess what I've done over time is I've migrated more to handing them pieces of paper instead of having it on a computer, and just handing them and keeping it really simple, especially when you're talking comps on their prices and all this kind of stuff. So to answer your question, yeah, I go in completely prepared, but now I've migrated more to where it's a person to person instead of my computer, and I think it's playing well with the fact that all of the online iBuyers and stuff like that just go and throw a price out. You never meet the person, you don't do this, you don't do that.
And you have to address all of this stuff before they bring it to you.
Oh, yeah.
But let me throw something else out. So to sum up what Neil's saying in really simple terms, is that by the time you're done making your presentation, they should feel like, wow, I only have to pay 7% or 6% for all that. Yeah, I'm going to give 3 of it to the other guys. So,
Correct.
you know, when you're done, there should be no doubt that there's value in your property.
That's right.
Without question.
We do devalue ourselves a lot, and you can see the industry has been devaluing itself pretty substantially over the last couple of years with the iBuyers coming in and
But
all
the
that.
best realtors don't. The best realtors do not. They don't succumb to that because you're valuable. You just got to present that value. So let me read these other things, and then these are going to cover a lot of stuff that we would say. Okay.
Yeah.
So would I be working exclusively with you, an assistant, or a larger team? Obviously, everybody knows the answer to that. What is it that you might need? You know, there's questions that you're going to want to ask them.
Well-
If you can pose a question when they pose a question, prior to these things coming up, you're going to cover that kind of stuff too.
Right, but let's go back to the listing agreement. You want to do an exclusive right, so versus, because that means they are working with you exclusively versus the,
Well, the question
A
is,
team.
like, are
You're
you
talking about
an
a team.
assistant?
Yeah.
Am I going to be working with your assistant, or are you going to slough me off on somebody on your
Yeah,
team?
yeah.
And if you are, make sure you address that. I'm not sloughing you off on anybody. I'm putting the person I think is going to work best with you from my team. Of course, everything, the buck stops with me. Everything's reviewed on a daily
Right.
basis. You know, however.
which
you
is
like.
all into the listing presentation too. So this
Absolutely.
all gets explained in there like.
Is this being directed towards new agents? Because if you're a new
Or even
agent,
agents that.
Any.
Okay.
It's all
Any.
listed.
because I would always, when I was a new agent and I was going up against somebody big, I would always hit it up right at the very beginning, and I'd hit all those objections that I know the client's thinking of. And I'd say something, because you know they're going to say, well, how many houses have you sold in the last year? You know?
It's all
And-
in here. We're getting all.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and I would say, hey, you know what, the best part of working with me is the fact that you're gonna be my only client. And no, I don't have a big team. You're gonna get me exclusively, and I'm gonna give you the best service ever. You're not gonna get pushed off on some minion on somebody's team. That's what I would say. I really honestly would.
Let me tell you how I throw the team thing out.
Yeah.
I tell them, yeah, I do. I have a team.
Yeah.
But my team consists of me, the realtor. I have a title partner in Lawyer's Title in
Right.
Kentucky. I have a home inspector in Ridge LeGrand at
Yeah.
Lions. You know, that's my team.
Right.
Shelley at One Guard. I've got Jim Zabo as my lender. Yes, that's my team. But as far as the
Yeah,
realtor,
but don't
it's
forget,
me.
you can leverage the brokerage too. So,
Absolutely.
You've got a brokerage that's Inc. 500 5 years in a row, you know, number 3 in Arizona. So, 18,000 transactions for 5.5 billion in business. Like 14% market share right now in the MLS. So it's, I don't know if it's 14 right now, but it's somewhere in that, it's very
Right.
close to that. But you can leverage that the brokerage as well.
Well, the big fear, though, that a lot of people have is they're going to get put off on somebody that doesn't really care about them. You're doing the listing presentation, and then they're afraid
Yeah.
they're going to get
You
somebody
send
else.
in the hitter.
Right. So I would always hit them up hard with that, because you're always feeling like, oh man, I'm just one person and I haven't sold that many houses or sold that many listings. Why would they even want to go with me? So you got to give them these reasons. You got to hit it up front and just say, wow, because you're going to get 100% of me.
Here's another great answer. If you're a new agent and you're concerned that they might say, well, we were kind of hoping to get somebody a little bit more experienced.
Right.
That's a totally legitimate question.
Sure.
Here's your response. Oh, I totally understand that. Let me show you who I work with at my office. So Johnny Walker helps me. He's got X amount of years in the
Exactly.
business. Neil Brooks has been in the business for 20 years. I speak to him every day, so we're covered. There's no
Right.
reason to worry about. Then use the brokerage. Use the strength of the brokerage to strengthen yourself. All right, let me go to these other ones.
All right, I gotta go.
All right.
I just wanted to say hi.
Did you
to
just
No,
him to
that's
drop that
it.
off for you?
Yeah, I'm gonna go drop this
you
off.
dropped
Sorry
that?
about everybody. I did a little, what do they call it? A debut or a
Cameo.
A cameo, a
Yeah.
cameo. But I got an appointment I gotta go to, so
Yeah.
I hope I help. Oh yeah, I know. We gotta. All right.
All right, man.
Good luck, everybody.
All right, let's
Thanks, Neil.
breeze through these other ones. What makes you different than other agents who frequently sell homes in my neighborhood? Great question. What technology tools do you utilize? How would we primarily be communicating? Okay, so these are all questions that I have as questions to my listers. Okay, so the questions, we're going to kind of combine all these. So I have a quick list of questions that I ask my clients that are potential listings, because I have questions too. Number one,
You should, and you should, as an agent, you should
absolutely.
have.
Number one, I want to know what they think their house is worth before I tell them what it's worth, because I know what it's worth before I sit down. I got a folder full of comps and handouts and everything that's going to show my value. I've gotten a folder before I even sit down with them. But I ask them questions first. A, what do you think your home is worth? Okay. What do you expect from your realtor? That's going to answer all these questions. Ask them before you make the answer, because now you already have the answers. How best is it to communicate? Do I communicate with you, Mr. Jones, or you, Mrs. Jones? Or is there somebody else I communicate with?
That's actually really important.
Super important. How do you feel about open houses? We're in the time of COVID. How do you feel about open houses? You know, that's a pretty important question right now. And then you got to discuss the status of the home. So if they answer that they'd like to have open houses, they have a big job to do. You can't have an open house if the house looks like crap. You know, you can't have underwear on the floor and toothpaste this house has to look nice.
And as an agent, you can't be afraid to bring that up. You know, if it's about decluttering the home, you have to really show them that when potential buyers come into the home, they want to be able to see how their home's going to look like. So the more you can make it.
Mike, if they don't answer these questions,
Yeah.
I might not be interested in the listing.
That's true.
Don't ever forget that if it's not right, it's not right. Don't jeopardize your career over a listing that somebody doesn't want to work with you. If they don't want to work with you, walk away. It's okay. You'll get another one. Don't feel like, have you ever fired a client? I fire clients. I throw people out of open houses all the time. If I don't feel like I want to work with somebody, I don't. And it's not a matter of being,
No,
you know,
just let them know
verbose
that may not be in
or
our best interest.
braggadocious. It's just, if it's not right, it's not right. So don't be afraid of that.
Any questions to this point?
I haven't seen any. No questions yet. Kelly Harris is on there. Josh is on here.
Yeah.
Mike Hodges.
I mean, any questions, guys? Even why is Johnny a Sox fan? I mean, I don't understand that either. I mean, I've known him a long time, and I can't figure that out.
There's a really good answer for that, but I'd like to ask you a question first, Mike. What's your problem with Sox fans? Okay, how about this? Why should I trust you to sell my home? That's a pretty legitimate question. How long have you been licensed in Arizona? If you haven't been licensed for 5 years or more, you should probably have a talk track about the brokerage and what the brokerage brings to the table, because that's going to be your strength. How many listings do you have, and how many have you sold in this past year? Always have your statistics ready. Don't bullshit them, because they can find out what your statistics are. There's public knowledge of what you've done.
And if you don't have any production because you are a new agent, that's okay. There's a lot of things that you can leverage to help show them that you're going to do a great job for them. So
I haven't had any. I'm so excited. You're going to be my first. I'm going to work so hard. I'm going to do so great. I can't wait. All I need is the opportunity to show you how much I've learned from this incredible brokerage I'm with. This is going to be great. Be excited. Don't ever look at it like a negative.
I love that you did that, because it is all about the attitude, about the passion, about them seeing that you're not only that, but more. Be genuine. Be you. during this interview.
Yeah.
So it's not about trying to sell. It's about being genuine, being upfront.
I don't think it works if you go, I never did this before.
Yeah.
Let's give it a try. We'll see what I can do. Okay, don't let the door hit you in the ass. What's your list to sales ratio and average days on market? So that's kind of a loaded question. So my response to a question like that would be, it's okay to tell them how many listings I've sold and how many I've been fired from, or that's a legitimate question. But you got to bring in knowledge right here. This is your opportunity to show them you have knowledge and you know what you're doing. Your answer to that might be something like, it really depends on the market. Obviously, we haven't been through a COVID-19 market, so the market's just different. Here's what I can tell you though. In my experience, I know that right now it's a seller's market because we're low on inventory. Start bringing up stuff that makes sense to them. Don't start throwing around acronyms, COE and Binzer and SPUDs.
No, you'll lose them quickly.
Because you'll lose them really fast.
Yeah.
And there's another really important thing there. Remember that this is what we do every day. So if you went into a missile manufacturing facility and they started using words, like, well, we use a PTS on this because underneath here the HMD goes in here. You have no idea what they're talking about. Okay, people don't get COE, SPUDs, Binzer, buyer book. You have to explain everything until they tell you, yeah, I got that. Then you can start using acronyms. Yeah. But even in emails, if you write our expected COE is September 4th, I would write our expected COE parentheses close of escrow. Put it in there. Let them learn as you're going. It's your job to educate them on the process. Okay. Can you provide 3 references for clients you've sold homes for? So as experienced agents, we all have 3 clients. We can probably send them to let them know. Obviously, I wouldn't pick a client that wasn't happy with the way things turned out, whether it was your fault or not.
No, that's all good, and that's why I actually put them in my buyer presentation.
Okay, I was just going to say.
I mean, they're actually in my listing presentation. That I have testimonials.
I was just going to say, the answer to all these questions should be in your listing presentation. So this is like a cheat sheet of how to set up your listing presentation. I don't care if you're a brand new agent or if you're Carl Eisenberg, who's been around. I mean, he was doing real estate. I'm pretty sure he found Moses a home. Didn't he? I'm pretty sure. I mean, Jesus was working with him a little bit. Wasn't so happy because he was new. But then, Moses came. I mean, even a guy like Carl, everybody's learning.
Is Carl out there?
What's his Sammy Sosa? It's easy. Did you ask a question? Oh, why you're a Cubs fan?
Why I'm a Cubs fan?
Yeah. Cheater. Steroids.
I was a Cubs fan long before Sammy Sosa showed
Yes.
I'm an old guy. I love the Ryan Sandberg. Andre Dawson was a badass.
None of these people know who those guys are. Come on.
That's funny.
All right. Okay. So these are just some of the questions. So where else can you get help with your listing presentation? And let me address this a couple ways. Sometimes we gear some of these shows towards newer agents, and that's our fault. Mike and I are in the mode of always helping people, and normally the more help that we give is usually to younger, newer agents. So we kind of tend to go that way. But I'm going to challenge all of you experienced agents, young agents, newer agents, whatever. I'm going to challenge you to look in the mirror and ask yourself, how good is my listing presentation, and can I make it better?
Yeah.
So
when's the last time you updated it?
And if you're an experienced agent, when's the last time you did it? So isn't it true, wouldn't you agree, Mike, that your listing presentation as of March 12th of this year should be completely different?
Yeah, I mean, things have changed. And, things are going to continue to change too. So you should be revisiting all your material often. Is it relevant in the current market? So
let's talk about how your listing present has changed since March 12th. Okay, since March 12th, people are quarantined. They're in the house. They're not out driving around. Where are they
want people coming in the house?
Where are they getting information? Right here on the computer. So shouldn't your listing presentation be extremely tech-centric as to how you're gonna get the word out to people? It's not gonna be the sign out in the front yard that people are driving by, okay? You should always be prepared with your clients to let them know that, you know, ultimately, I could get billboards, and in a regular era, not in time of COVID. I could get billboards, I could get a kid on the side of the street with an arrow spinning around. There's all kinds of things you can do. But I'm going to tell you right now, and I don't know what the exact percentage is, but I'd be willing to bet that it's more than 80% of houses sold in this valley come from the MLS, one way or another. Remember that the MLS is now broadcast through Zillow, and it's broadcast through Realtor.com, and so it's accessed all over the place. So the MLS is clutch. So with that in mind, how important are pictures? How important is your description? How important is it to know that the property, if it's being flipped, hasn't been 90 days, that you can't accept an FHA offer? How important is it to know the access? Is there a gate code? Is it a gated community? I can't tell you how many times I'm out showing properties, and you get there and the realtor's like, oh, I forgot to put the key in the lockbox. Or you get there and you're like, it's a gated, there's a gate here, there's a code, how do I get in this? Oh, I forgot to put that in the listing. So try to, as much as I hate to say this, but there's realtors that just aren't really good at what they do, and they miss stuff. Try to be the professional and ask all the questions that you need to ask prior to going to a property. Because you don't want to get out to the property and be stuck. Oh, I can't show you this property. We just drove 45 minutes and we can't show it because the realtor was an idiot and didn't put the code on there, or forgot to put the key in the lockbox. Or
yeah, and as a realtor though, if you see something like that, you need to be the one asking the questions and getting the information. So when you do take the client, you're very prepared.
Cover all the bases.
Yeah, right. So it's on both sides. So not only get all the correct information in there, make it super easy, as much information in the listing as you can. But if you're actually going to show a listing that doesn't have all the information, you need to be calling, getting the answers, getting all those questions taken care of, so that when you do take your client to see it, you've got all the information and you've got access and all that stuff. So
remember, I talked about all the ass kickings we've gotten down this hall.
Yeah.
Here's a lesson for you. If you use your phone to open up your lock boxes, okay, make sure it's updated before you ever even get in the car. I've gone out to properties and I go to do the lockbox and it's like, oh, you got to update it, and it's like, now you got to call, you got to get an update. I used to have one of those.
The e-keys.
Yeah. Now I've got it.
I got it on my phone.
I got it on here, and I'm a big fan of the one on your phone. It's just that way you've always got it with you. It's never like, oh, I got to go show a property and I forgot my e-key at home.
That's why I would not get I got the app on my phone.
Yeah. So if you go on there, just make sure it's updated before you leave. So when you get to the house, you're not waiting on this to update. That's a little lesson that I learned the hard way.
Yeah. Any questions, guys? Any questions at all? Please, anything about anything.
How many years did the Cubs go without winning a World Series?
Too many.
100
Way
times.
too many years.
That wasn't really a question. I made that one up.
Way too many years. But hey, we finally got one. So
okay, so let's go back to listing presentations and how they need to be updated and changed. I'm seeing a lot of 2.5% commissions on listings. That means one of two things. That means that our standards are getting lower, which I think is complete bullshit. I think we do our job and we earn our pay. John Dyer would be the first one to tell you that there shouldn't even be a co-broke because it's more like a tip. But the fact of the matter is that's how buyer's agents make their money. I think a lot of people are looking at any homes that are 250 and below, maybe 300 and below. They're going to sell them in a day, a week, you know. So they might be still getting 6% in the listing, but they're pocketing 3.5 and giving 2.5. I see that a lot.
I saw 2% listing the other day. I was training an agent how to go through the MLS and how to look at the MLS sheet. And I was like, well, this is where you learn how much you're making on the deal. And it said 2%. I was like, holy crap.
Yeah. I know a lot of people. I know some people in our office that are taking listings at a discounted rate to keep the flow going until things get better. So, there's a lot of reasons that could be. Yeah, there's a lot of different strategies right now. So we're in a time of big change, of not just COVID, not just the protest, not just social, stuff. It's affecting our business in more ways than one.
Yeah.
So you gotta kind of watch for all that stuff. So okay, let's talk a little bit about open houses in time of COVID too. Did we cover listing presentations? Do we have that pretty much?
Yeah, any questions on listing presentations? I encourage you, if you don't have one, reach out to us. I mean, we're happy to help however we can, get something started for you. I mean, there's some great tools out there for you. We got something coming very soon here at my home group that's a new marketing center that you're going to be able to create that yourself. So it's pretty exciting. We're so excited for that. I don't know when, it's sooner than later. I don't have a date on when that's going to happen, but some really cool stuff coming.
Yeah, definitely team up with your title agent and have your title rep talk to you a little bit about listing presentations. I guarantee you they have definitely a ton of information to help you with that.
What we could do is maybe in a future episode bring somebody in going through a whole listing presentation.
If you guys want that,
let us know.
We're more than happy to do that. Somebody said they just saw a listing at 1% the other day.
Wow.
Yeah,
I didn't that. Yeah.
It's what it is. There's an answer I'm supposed to say about that, and then there's another answer that I'm thinking. And if John Dyer's watching, he'll kick my ass if I tell you the one I'm thinking, so I won't say that. But if you're an experienced agent, you know exactly where I'm going with that. Last thing on listing presentations, if you're curious as to whether your listing presentation stands up to another one, there's a couple different ways you can find that out. You can go out and get your ass kicked and not get a listing because someone had one better, and maybe hopefully get to see what they put together. Or you can go to an agent at my home group that does a ton of listings and ask them. I mean, I don't know if the Lawton team shares that kind of stuff, but nobody's got more listings than the Lawton.
But come in and ask. I mean, come in and brought it by people that do a lot of listings. Neil's a great guy. I mean, he's been a top producer for a long time, so he loves to share information. So.
Yeah, I know there's a couple other people here that have great listing presentations.
And he has a bottle of tequila in his office.
Yeah, and I'll change it. Yeah. Well, I got a bottle of Jameson in my. So here's the thing with me, because I'm not as good with the computer and technology. I've had to ask people to help me with mine, because if you're not showing up to date with up-to-date numbers and stats, and if you can't plug this thing in and show people, let me show you what's going on, you're behind the 8 ball.
There is a part of the listing presentation. I agree with Neil, so I do a lot of it one-on-one contact, and we go through the paper, but I do have part of it is done on the computer so that I can take them through that, especially on the pictures, so they can look at the pictures of the different comparisons, to their home. So I like to go through that on the computer and stuff, but you definitely need to have, you should have a version on your computer, and then you should have something where you're really face-to-face. So.
And let me give you another, I got my ass kicked one time lesson. I went into a listing presentation for a listing I knew I was getting, so I half-assed it. I said, yeah, we'll do all that. Of course we're going to do that. We'll do this, and don't worry about that. Where we at on open houses, how do you feel about that? We just kind of skimmed over everything, and then I didn't get the listing. And somebody else got it, and I was heartbroken. I was like, what do you mean you gave it to somebody else? Well, they had a better presentation. John, they were showing me. I was like, oh my God. So don't ever half-ass your listing presentation. I don't care if it's to your mom, your sister.
Exactly.
Nobody. Don't half-ass. Don't mail in your listing presentation. Give the full Monty every time, because you just never know.
And I'll tell you why, because, on your family and friends, sometimes it's hard to do business with family and friends, right? But if you actually show them, just as you would any other client, they really see what you do as an agent, everything that you do for your clients. So even though they're friends and family, they get to see from point A to point B, here's everything that I do as an agent, so they really understand how professional you are.
And telling them,
not just a
showing
family
them.
member, but you're showing them that
actually, I had a realtor one time tell me that if you ever do family and friends, charge extra. You're going to be working so hard for them because they're family and friends. You're going to work more for them than you would anybody else. You should almost, obviously, not going to do that. But yeah, never half-ass. And that's that's a good point, Mike. You know, your brother, your sister, your cousin, your aunt, your uncle, they might know you're a realtor, but do they really know
what you do,
what it is that you do? I
Yeah.
mean, you should definitely
Show 'em.
show them all the way out. So when they're done, they're like, wow,
Yeah.
Mike, I had no idea that's why you're never home. You're really busy.
Yeah.
You know, you'd be surprised how people don't really get it.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about, does that pretty much cover listing presentations?
Yeah, it's an
Don't
overview.
mail it in, be knowledgeable, have a print version and an online version. Never half-ass it, give it the full thing every time. What else are we missing? Oh, here, I got another one for you. Only because I've seen this. Don't show up to a listing presentation in flip-flops and a t-shirt. I don't
Or
care
professional.
if your client only wears flip-flops and a t-shirt, still don't show up in flip-flops and a t-shirt or a shirt that says F New York or
If you're gonna show up
Yeah.
I wouldn't show up too early. I would be a little early.
5 minutes early,
5 minutes
without
early.
question.
Yeah. One of my favorite things to do, and I hope everyone does in their listing presentations, I do the walkthrough, but what's important, everyone does the walkthrough, they give them a tour of the home, but this is where I take a lot of notes. So even if there's not many notes to take, I still take notes. Even if the house is in great shape or not great shape, I take a lot of notes when I go through that walkthrough.
Okay, I'll give you
There's
another
reason
little.
behind that.
I'll give you another little nugget. So when I show up to a listing presentation, I'll text them and say, "Hey, I'm here. I'm 5 minutes early. I'll be at the door in 5 minutes." And I start walking around the house with a pad. I start walking around looking at the bushes, looking at this, and I'm
Yeah,
writing
outside.
notes. And I hope they're looking outside,
Yeah.
watching me do this. You know, then I'll go look at the street. I'll make some notes. How many houses are here? Make some notes. You know, so by the time I get in the house, I've already got notes on their house. I might have drawn a little picture. This shrub's going to need to be trimmed, and you know, there's some touch up you might want to do in the garage. So when it comes time to actually walk the house, where you're taking notes around the house, saying, okay, here's what I think, guys. I think, you know, we probably need to. There's a brown spot on the ceiling there. Was that a damage? It's that. We're going to fill out a thing called the SPUDS, which is a seller property disclosure statement. We're going to have to tell people, you know, disclose everything. Tell me a little bit about that. That stuff is showing them that, okay, this is not just put it on the MLS, bring somebody by and sell.
Right.
That's showing professionalism. I hope you picked up the 5 minutes early. Text them, tell them I'm here. I'll be at the door in 5 minutes. That's your text. I'm here. I'll be at the door in 5 minutes. Our appointment was at 3. I'll be there at 3. But I'm here. And then I want to see them looking out the windows. You know, park your car where people can see your car. Where my car says Johnny Walker on the side. I want people to see it. But as soon as I get out of the car, I've got a pad of paper and I'm writing notes. That's showing professionalism. You're closing the deal before you ever even get in front of them. You're showing them that, wow, this guy knows what he's doing. I mean, he didn't just walk up and go, all right, you know, be a pro.
Absolutely.
Dress like a professional. I've made mistakes. I like to fancy myself as somebody that's funny, and I do make people laugh. But I've made mistakes and made people try to be humorous at a time when maybe I shouldn't have. So, you know, feel every situation out, you know.
You'll know in the first 5 minutes kind of how it's going to go. As you start to say hello and all that stuff, you'll really kind of get a
If you're the third person in, when you sit down, they're going to go, yeah, I've got 2 other listings, presentations. Tell me why I should go with you. It's an interview, period.
Yeah.
You better come up with the right stuff.
Yeah, every listing presentation is going to be different. Sometimes you're not going to go through the whole, if you want to call it a pitch, but you sometimes you don't go through the whole presentation because that's when you feel it out, when you first meet them, how this is going to go. Sometimes they just want to get down to the nuts and bolts. They don't want
But don't skip any nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
Even if they're pushing it, don't skip anything. It's all important.
It is all
It's all important. Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right. Let's talk about open houses right now. So,
My favorite thing to do.
yeah, it's boy, I gotta tell you, Mike, if somebody put a gun to your head and said you need to go get business today, how you gonna do it? I'm going home and getting my open house signs, and I'm
me
gonna go
too.
find the house to sit open.
Yep. Open houses, for sure.
So the simplest way I can put this is that if you're doing an open house, you're looking for someone that wants to buy a house. If somebody comes to an open house, they're a person that wants to buy a house. I'm not a rocket scientist, but that just seems to make sense to me, that I'm looking for you and you're looking for me. So what's the best place to do that? There's so many variables, and especially now with COVID, there's so many variables. And right now with the social injustice and everything that's going on in the world, it's so many variables. So everything changes. I'm going to go right back to what I said about listing presentations. If you've got a listing presentation that you've been using for years and it's successful, you need to change it for time of COVID, because it's just different right now. Okay, you've got to upgrade it. You've got to update it. Same thing with this. Okay, open houses. So here's the one thing that I do that the majority of people I talk to don't do. So, and everybody's got their own way of doing open houses. They have their successful ways.
Yeah, Jenny and I both do a little bit differently.
Neil Brooks is he's a superstar. I mean, he's the master of the open house. He does it different than I do. Have I adopted some stuff that he does?
Yeah,
absolutely. And I'm an experienced agent, and I learn from him all the time. But one thing that I do that I learned from a coach that I had by the name of Aaron Hodson, I knock doors after my open house. And what I'll do is, if I get 15 people through, I keep a tally sheet. And if the neighbors come over and they say, oh, we're just the nosy neighbors, I will drop everybody else to talk to the neighbor. Why do you think that is? Because I do open houses to get listings. I'll get buyers. I have the kind of personality that people like. I know I can get buyers. I don't question that. If I get people in the door, I get a pretty good shot of getting them as a buyer client. What I got to work at is getting listings, because you got to list to exist. That's just the way I feel about it. So that tip sheet that I keep, I'll write down. I'll go to the neighbor afterwards and say, hey, Mike, thanks for stopping by the open house. Obviously you were interested in what's going on, so I thought I would come by and just let you know. We had 12 people through. 6 people felt as though the layout just wasn't right. I had 2 people that, realized that there's power lines and they don't want to live here, whatever the thing is. But at the end, I can say I got 6 people interested and they love this neighborhood. If you have any interest, or you guys were ever considering, selling, now might be a really good time to do it, because I have lots of interest in the neighborhood. And this is real data. This is data that I just got.
You bring up a really good thing that you just talked about, is how that you track, everything that's going on in the open house. And I think that's super important. That's when I got really good at open houses, and when I started writing down how many people came through, how many people I want to talk to, like you just said, how many people are interested in the neighborhood, some that are not, it doesn't fit. But I tracked all of that, and that helped make not only the follow-up conversations better with everyone that I reached out to, but it started to really help me that after 34 conversations, I had an opportunity. So every time I talked to 32 people in an open house about real estate, I had an opportunity. So track your business, and you should be tracking all of your business, but here specifically open houses, remember that they had 2 kids. Remember they were on their way to the soccer game. You write all this stuff down, so you really track it. So that's important.
Yeah, so when people do my sign-in sheet is different than anybody's, I guarantee it.
Oh yeah.
It's gold. It's gold. If people sign into my sign-in sheet, while I'm talking to them, I take that sign-in sheet with me as I'm walking around the house. And I'll write notes. They're from Nebraska. They're big Cornhusker fans. They're from New Orleans. They like to eat Cajun food. Whatever that might be, they have 4 kids. 2 of the kids was with them, Bobby and Susie. How old are the other kids? 18 and 12. I write all that stuff down. So when I communicate with them later, I have all that. I put it in my CRM.
Think about how much easier a conversation is.
I'm too stupid to remember everything. I know that. I'm not going to remember.
It's just your conversation is going to be so much easier, so much nicer, and it's so much more relaxing. You're not the used car salesman or the hard-hitting sales pitch when you reach out to them.
I try to make them laugh. If I can make them laugh right when they come in, I'll tell people, come on in, and then I'll go like this, look behind them. They're looking at me like, what? I said, did you leave the big suitcase of money in the car, or were you going to write a check for this house, or what? Yeah. I'm like, look, folks, make yourselves at home. I have a sign-in sheet. If you'd like to sign it, please do so. If you don't want to sign it, don't. But I do ask that everybody read it. And once they start reading it,
Yeah.
I'm golden. So everybody's got their own thing. Okay, now, COVID. COVID changes everything.
Yes.
Whether you believe you should have a mask or not, you should have a mask.
You should have, yeah.
Because
Take all
they
precautions
may
right
feel
now.
that, they may feel that you need to
Yeah,
have a mask. You should have hand sauce, so you can, disinfect your hand. You should have wipes to give the people when they come in, say, I've opened up every door, I've turned on every light. If there's something you need to touch, please use this, especially in a house that's occupied.
Yeah.
Even in a vacant house, just give them a
I
disinfectant.
liked your idea. You brought up another idea before, was that you wore the gloves, so when you were taking them around the home, you could open things up for them. So I kind of like that idea too. So a couple different ways you can do that there, but you definitely need to take precautions. I would even bring, a cleaner and roll paper towels so you can wipe stuff down after people come and go and just kind of keep it clean. So
Yeah.
you got to take precautions.
Yeah, it's so different right now between an occupied and a vacant house right now. It's vitally important that disinfectant is used and,
Yeah.
God forbid, nobody wants to get sick because
Well,
of
that's
an open
right.
house, or you don't want the people coming to get sick. Another little thing another lesson I learned over the years, another ass kicking that I learned from. I have no problems throwing somebody out of an open house. I have no problems at all doing that. And actually, if there's a neighbor in the house and I have reason to tell somebody, hey, I appreciate if you wouldn't do that, or no, you can't come in. This is where you're selling yourself and they don't even know it. So in other words, here, I'll give you a perfect example. I had a couple come in and they had their little dog with them. And they said, oh, he would never poop, or he's trained. And I said, is he a service dog? No, that's just a little Fifi. Isn't he cute? I said, I'm sorry, you can't bring your dog in here. And they're like, he's not going to, I promise you, he's not going to poop or anything. I said, I'll just carry him. I'm like, no, I'm sorry, you can't bring your dog in here. These people have, children that are allergic to dogs. You can't come in. And they get so pissed off. So I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry. Get out. And if the neighbors are there and they're seeing you take charge to protect that property, that's going to bite you in the ass too. Because if you got dog lovers, they're going to get really pissed off that you didn't let them
Well, I
in
hope they
and their
will.
little family dog in. But you know what?
If the kids were allergic to dogs,
If I got a house, I don't want somebody's dog walking through. What if they got a cat? They're going to mark their territory or something.
well, you have to honor what
Whose
the
fault is
seller does anyway. I mean, you're the listing agent, so or if you're not, if there is things that have to be addressed, then you address them just like you did. I mean, the seller didn't want dogs in the home. No dogs in the home.
Or get away from the. I mean, a lot of people do this, but I totally disagree with it. Get away from the seller requires everybody to sign in. That's bullshit. And people come in open houses know that's bullshit.
I don't force it either.
And I guarantee you're getting the wrong number, or the wrong info, or the wrong email. If you're forcing them to sign in, the chances of you getting real data, I just think it plummets.
Yeah.
You gotta feel them out. I mean, that's what I'm good at. Is I can make a friend or a client inside 30 seconds. I know if it's right or wrong. I know if they're reacting to me right. But that's 37 years of sales. It's a lot of experience. But there's ways to get people's information without putting a gun to their head and saying, yeah, no, you gotta. But if you're going to do that, stick to it and throw them out. If they won't give you, okay, let me check your number, that's the wrong number, you have to leave. Because you already lied to me. So I wouldn't want to work with you anyway, because you obviously lied to your business partners. So I'm not interested. And that tech has worked for me as well. Geez, I'm really sorry. You seem like a real pro. I didn't know. I addressed look at how many open houses have you been to today? 2 or 3. I said, I don't see any scars, so you're not getting beat up too bad for your information. And people laugh. They're like, what is it with you realtors? It's like the Spanish accent. Look, I got a sign-in sheet. You don't have to sign it. I do ask that everybody read it, and then as they're reading it, they get it that I'm not interested. I tell them, yeah, look, if you're not interested in working with me, that's okay. I'm not going to tell you can't come in and see the house.
Right.
Please come in, but at least give me a chance to let you know how I
I
work.
want to point out something though that you're doing, that you're kind of sharing what you're doing. And I think it's truly the secret to open houses, having successful open houses anyway, is number one, just be you. Just be you. You need to be genuine. And number two, just focus on building the relationship, making the connection. Don't worry about trying to make a sale. Make the connection. Really talk to the people and build that know you, like you, trust you. And I think that's the most important thing that you need to do in every open house. Just say hello, be genuine, be the provider of information. Don't worry about trying to sell the house as much as you are trying to get to know them, make the connection, and build that relationship.
Yeah,
So,
that's, you know,
that's everything you're saying. Everything you're saying is about trying to break down that wall, let them know that you are there for them, that you can answer questions, that you want to help them. You're making it funny because you and I both know that when they come in, there is a perception that we come, oh, we got to deal with this realtor. This realtor is going to be just hounding us, and we want to knock that wall down as soon as we can, and that's why we do it through humor, through the connection, through
professionalism.
Yeah, professionalism, all that stuff. So focus on building the relationship and making the connection than you are about trying to sell something. So,
You got about 2 minutes.
yeah.
You got about 2 minutes to make that connection. So let's kind of close today with kind of that about that human connection. Everybody's going to have their own style. My style doesn't work for everybody. Mike's style doesn't work for everybody. Neil's, Carl's, everybody's got their own style. I think you just gotta keep two things real. Be authentic with people. Number one, just be authentic with people. And when people are speaking, don't ever look at your phone. If you want to write notes, that's okay. People understand that. Where are you from, folks? Minnesota? Oh, wow. What part of Minnesota? Write down Minnesota. And if they're asking why you're taking notes, I just didn't want to forget. I'm truly interested in what I'm asking. So don't ask somebody a question and then ignore the answer. Because you're done. You're done. Right then and there, you're done and over with.
Just remember, we're not going to be able to cover everything about open houses today, but we both do classes on open houses. Back next week, I'm going to get into it a little bit. Next Wednesday from 1 to 3, I'm going to get into it a little bit. So if you want some more information on that, please go to mbccalendar.com. It's out there. It's a little bit fast. Johnny does them, I do them. And if open houses are one of your pillars of business, and we hope it is, because we both believe strongly in open houses and how effective they are. Take as many classes as you can. If Neil's teaching a class, Johnny's teaching a class, I'm teaching a class, you're going to learn a lot of great stuff from the different classes, and then make it your own. You'll start to really get into a groove when you start doing open houses and figuring out how you do them best. That's how he learned. That's how I learned. We learn from each other all the time. So get involved, take the classes, and just get as much knowledge as you can. Be the expert. I almost said that. Be the expert at open houses, and the way to do that is learn from others.
I've had people come sit open houses with me that have been in the business longer than I have. They're just like, Johnny, you do so well with these. Can I come and just sit and see your talk tracks and see the way you do stuff? So, new agent, experienced agent, we're all learning. I'm learning every day. I learn. Austin Zabak was in here last week, the week before. That kid's unbelievable. I mean, yeah, can you learn from?
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course. You can learn from everybody. You just never know who that lesson's going to come from.
That's right.
So I think if I had to sum up the one single thing that's most important over everything in this business, and I would tell you to be authentic. Be you. Don't try to be something you're not. Whether you're a new agent, an experienced agent, an old agent, or a young agent, be authentic. Just be yourself and let things roll.
Oh, I agree with that 100%. I mean, more genuine. Think about how popular reality shows are, right? It's because people love people that are just being themselves. They're just being real. So just be you.
That's a great point. Reality shows are all based on people being authentic.
Because when they mess up, and you can't be afraid to do that. So it's just be yourself. Don't try to be something else.
That's it. That's all we got for the week.
Yeah, that's it. Well, is it time yet?
It is. We got to shut it down. Anyway, thanks everybody for tuning in. We have no idea who's going to be on next week.
Are there any questions?
No questions.
No.
Just that somebody saw that 1% thing. So that's it. We're good.
All right.
See you guys.
Have a great day.